Hi, my name is Pulkit, and in this video we're going to be talking about building habits during user onboarding. When someone's trying out your product for the first time, they're a new user, building habits into their actions is really important for them to achieve long-term success. You want to help users understand the key actions they should be taking and make these a repeated occurrence. If you do that, then it's much more likely that they'll enjoy the product, they'll find value from the product, and they'll stay engaged for a long time. So if you're a founder, if you're a designer, a product manager, you can start to think about how to program some of the user experiences to make it easier for users to grasp them and stick around. It's very simple, and we're going to go through some key things you can do to help you achieve better user onboarding and have more happy users. Nir Eyal is a psychologist who has talked a lot about habits. He developed a model around it called the hook model. And the hook model contains 4 different parts. So the first part is triggers, or a trigger. The second part is an action. The third part is a reward. And the fourth part is an investment. And then this repeats, and I'll go through these in detail. In the first part, what you're looking for is a trigger. Now, a trigger is something that prompts someone to take an action. And it can be an external trigger, something that they see or something that they read, or it can be an internal trigger, something that prompts them to think about opening your product or finding a solution for a pain that they have. You can influence these triggers. For example, notifications, emails, in-product tours, all of these can contribute to a trigger for a user to take an action. Next is action. So here a user needs to do something. They need to act on it on the trigger they received. The next stage is getting a reward. So hopefully the action that a user took ended up being successful for them, they gained some value, and it's a very simple, obvious, tangible reward they achieved. Sometimes you can support this by explaining that the reward is there, and you can help motivate users by congratulating them or appreciating the action they took. But really you should have some kind of key reward. And when you have a reward, that's a really great time to request investment. So it's kind of, think about it as a virtuous circle. I've just been prompted or triggered to do something, taken the action, I've got a reward, I feel great, and now I can invest a little bit more. And that's when I can do work. If you ask users to do work before they've received the reward, it kind of wears down their motivation. Think about it in this way. When do they take action? What's the reward they get? And then therefore, what's the investment that I can help put in a way that they will then be able to build a habit so that they can then take the next action after they get a trigger. So it's investing in their own experience, investing in their own success. So that's an overview of the hook model. Now let's think about how do you apply this to user onboarding. Now, user onboarding is a great time to think about this because there's already a trigger. I mean, a user has signed up for your product. That's a trigger. They've come across some need or something has prompted them to sign up. So they've signed up, they've taken an action. It's a great place to kind of give them a reward and then let them take more investment. Now, key things that sometimes get broken in this model is there's been a trigger, but it's not clear what action a user should take. Often people will sign up for a product, end up in the dashboard, and they're confused because there's so many great options, but really, what do I do next? And that creates confusion, and if the action doesn't happen, then you break that circle. So think about how do you guide users to take the right next step and take action. Another thing can sometimes fall down in the user onboarding phase is that they might have taken an action, but then there's no real reward. They've put in some data, but they're not able to see the consequence of that. Or they've added some setup, but they have nothing to do. They might have to wait for somebody else. They might have to wait for another step outside the product. So think about how to reward a user when they've taken an action. Now, they might have taken an action, they might have got the reward, and then sometimes people don't request the next investment. So when they're in the product, they've just completed a workflow, that's the time to request them to do something else. Not down the road when you send them an email based on a behavior or a trigger that asks them to take an action. So when they've completed something, help them take the next action there and then. And then finally, how do you build this again? So that's just one loop, but what's the next trigger? So they've signed up, they've taken an action, you've given them a reward, you've even asked for some investment, but then what next? What's the trigger for the next loop? So these are things you should think about during your onboarding. What is the trigger for a user? What is the action they're taking? What is the reward they're getting? And what's the investment you're asking from them? Don't ask for all the investment up front. Sometimes that's another common mistake companies make, is they ask for a lot of information up front before users even got any reward. So think about how to break it up in these stages, and this will help you build a lot more engaging products. It will help users sustain their motivation to find value and discover the aha moment, and will help you eventually create much more engaging product. Add a comment below if you have any questions about this topic. We're happy to answer them. Otherwise, head over to our blog, trychameleon.com/blog, for a lot more information about this topic and other topics around user onboarding and feature adoption, product adoption. And also you can subscribe to this video channel, get a notification as soon as new content is released, and so you'll be the first to see it. So I hope you enjoyed it and look forward to next time.